All right, guys, today's video is basically reading soil. The island has many good examples, so that's why I'm up here today. Plus, you can treat this as an island update as well if you want to. And obviously, something has drastically changed since the last video, right? Drastically changed. All right, so the problem here is, if you caught on to the previous videos that I've been doing, at any point I mentioned somewhere along the way, I knew this ground is acidic. Other than reading, what plants show you as a shortage, the soil is also giving me clues to other problems with it. So how do I know that the ground is going to be acidic? From looking at it, you really can't tell by the way the plants are growing that it is. Well, one key clue, other than the other thing I'm going to show you, is this right here. That is your moss that grows in soil. The more that you have, generally the more acidic the ground becomes. And I was finding this in large areas. So when pH is balanced, that moss stops growing. Moss likes acidity. So there's clue number one. The soil is telling me something is not right. Clue number two is sometimes it's all to do about the trees. And I'm not talking just pine trees, even though that's your number one indicator for acidity. Cedars and pines are one of the worst trees to change soil pH. But I'll go ahead and tell you straight off the bat, anytime you are dealing with woods, especially when woods has been around for a long period of time, let's say 20, 30, 40, 50 years plus, what happens to the soil? It becomes acidic. The forest is actually unhealthy for soil. So if you actually was to thin out some of your forest and make a savanna, you can improve the soil quality and return it back to its natural state. And where here, trees, doesn't matter really what kind at this point. I mean, obviously, like I stated before, pines and cedars are the worst, but the fungus that devours leaves and different decaying matter tends to be acidic. So they keep leaching acidity into the soil, and it continues to build up, build up, build up, and your pH numbers drop off. So here we have multiple clues the ground was acidic, which I came back at a 5.3 pH. That's not good at all. So at least with the soil test, I am seeing what exactly that number is. That's the reason why I want to do it, other than the fact I already knew that it was bad. Now, I'm going to tell you something else, though. This is more of the good news to the island. With bad pH, I am still getting tremendous growth with the pH I have. I have finally hit the threshold where the nutrients are high enough that I am getting large-scale growth in all new areas of the island. This right here wasn't even close to what last year looked like. Even with these smaller ones here, I would say last year looked more like that. So there's you something to gauge. And smaller, that would probably be more considered the average, but they was smaller. This is over 2 feet. That one's over 2 feet. But the most important thing is I had from here back, I had no food in this island last year. It died. I mean, even the fall blend was dying back here. That is a major indicator that nutrition is the problem, other than the fact that your sunlight's going to be blocked. So what did I do? I put low light plants in the back, and look at how they have responded. So all these videos that I've been doing up here on the island, whether they're boring or not, about fixing the soil up, has generated this year's return. So this is a good indicator based on what the soil is telling me that my fall blends are going to perform better than ever. I still have a nutrient restriction as long as this pH is down, but this is telling me that we have hit the threshold now to where there is enough nutrient flow getting in here, and it's starting to keep the plants healthier, alive, more aggressive. Back here, this is still more of a work in progress, but we have living plants. Okay, that's the first good sign that the plants have actually lived this long. Every time in the past, they've all died, and this time I've got about 20%, maybe pushing 25% that have survived it, at least on this part of the island. And what is here is looking pretty good. Now, it's not the best. You can see that one's too light colored, but we are making progress. So the soil is telling me that something has gotten better. Now, I'm going to go to the back half here in a second, but this is what you're striving for, to see that sudden burst of improvement. Now, everybody has different budgets, so your results can vary in time span. I'm kind of milking this one along a bit because I'm trying to get the main plot built up first, and this is my secondary item. But next year, or actually during the fall this year, I'm going to keep building nutrients up here because I want this to perform really well. And that way the main plot will have something to help take some of the stress off of it when it's planted early, not when it's up and running. It can handle it just fine. So we get back here. This is all new growth records, every bit of it, all the way to the road. Still smashing it. Browse has occurred in new areas. Even this is ragweed, and you can see where the deer's browsed it off there, right here, and it's just suckered back. So I'm just going to try to keep that from spreading because I have better quality plants than that, even though ragweed is 20% protein. I got plants in here with 30 and 40 plus when they're doing right. And here, this plant and soil is telling me something has drastically changed. This cowpea or mung bean is just flat out growing like crazy. This looks very similar to the main food plot. So my potassium, my nitrogen levels that I focused on the most have finally hit the mark to where it's affecting the plants. Trees were probably sucking up a good portion of it to start with, but now I'm starting to build excess. Look at that vetch right there. 5 foot tall, some of it's almost 6. That one's close to 6 foot, very close. I'm 6'2", or right at it, and that's every bit eye level with me. But this is what I'm after. We want mega growth in small areas like this, and deer have been browsing this. It's just it's growing so fast it's hard to see it now. You can see right here where they browsed it off, and it just suckered and suckered and suckered and kept going. That stuff just likes being browsed, let's just put it that way. Okra plants, smashing records. The soil is telling me the health is rising. Okra plants, big okra plants. This is by far the largest okra I've had in here. Last year I did put some out up here and they all died. Lack of nutrients, lack of water, whatever. There were multiple problems occurring with this soil. So now we have better nutrition. That looks much thicker. The leaf sizes here, that'll probably fold up on me now that I've touched it. But the leaves on those are twice the size in most cases. Speed of growth has accelerated, especially with that manganese application. Now back here, I know this may not look like what you want, but the turkeys did a lot of damage to this back here. It should have looked like this. But you can see where they've been taking their dust baths right there. They pulled a lot, the little babies pulled the little plants out of the ground. So that's unfortunate. But we have signs. We have some tremendous signs back here that things are changing. If you notice, the sun hemp also did not survive this year. I had some small plants that looked like they were on their way, and turkeys destroyed them. So they got pulled out of the ground because they couldn't establish a good root structure, which is another sign that this soil has a little ways to go as far as root favoritism. So here we are in the back half. Record growth. Record growth. We have finally hit the threshold, and the soil is telling me now that we are arriving at a good point where this nutrition is going to help these future plots survive. Now, there is one thing here that you're not seeing, and I've seen this multiple times. So let me get back here a second. I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, back here, we've always had issues with growth and thickness and tonnage produced back here on this back end. There was one thing that I've noticed with these plants that has drastically slowed them down, and it's not the shade that's being produced by the trees. This is actually something else. When I had fertilized all this in the back with all the new fertilizer, I knew that things were changing within 2 to 3 weeks. I could see that these guys were really wanting to show that they were growing. But we had a span of, I want to say, a week where we had no rainfall. I come back up here to look at the island, and everything from this little bushy stump sprout right here all the way back to right about in there, all this was wilted down. It looked like it was drying out, but it was still green as it could be. That is an indication of two things. One, the roots are having a hard time getting deep, and the soil itself is not retaining water. This clay soil still has a concrete crust layer that is occurring on the clay. And that is what is inhibiting a lot of good looking growth back here. So on top of low light issues, low nutrition issues, which I have been addressing that, so it's not as low as it used to be. And now we have soil that is not retaining water. Now you could also add that these trees are going to siphon it out faster, which could be true as well, but that back there, there's just as many trees and it didn't wilt. Not one time. All this back here did. So we have a water retention problem in this back half. And the only way to fix that is repeated rotting crop cycles over and over. Or during the fall time, you can go out and buy like a winter wheat bale or a rye bale. It's got seeds in it, which is fine because you're putting cereal rye out anyway. You can get one of them and broadcast all that bale like I did, was it 2 years ago? There is a video where I did that 2 years ago in this exact spot. And it needs it done again. I mean, I just need more rot back here. You can see that the mat that I'm creating is just not that thick. So we have stringy material. That is just because the fall blends didn't grow to what the main food plot does. So I'm working on adjusting this area to match the main food plot. So if I'm getting growth like that, imagine what the island's going to look like once I get the rest of this going. Because we're there in some places now. I mean, we are literally there. What has slowed this down was lack of water retention. It's just as healthy looking as the other vetch. So it's not necessarily a nutrition problem every time your plants aren't growing well. This is a hard crust. Soft underneath and hard on top. And I could barely get my finger down in there. That should be soft. Therefore, when it rains, it's hitting and running out of the island. Now that there's other places like in the middle here that's looking, you know, a lot better water retention wise, I'm not losing so much water. But that's just one of the processes that we need to be aware of when you got bad soil, that it's just going to take a little time for some of this to work, because you've already seen what I've done for years and years. You didn't see the start of it. This island is basically the start of what I was dealing with in the field. So I think we're doing much better. Growth rates are looking excellent, so I'm very happy to say the island is finally getting there. Even some of the bean plants back here are being browsed, but they have enough strength to leaf back out. So a little more nutritional tweaks, and from here on out, you're going to see me use a different type, a carbonic fertilizer. And we're going to work on pH up here. If I can get it at least to 5.7 or 5.8 and match the main food plot, you would still see a tremendous difference in plant growth up here. So the closer I get to 7, the better the growth begins or gets. All right, guys, so that's pretty much it. The island is definitely looking a whole lot better. At the rate this is growing, in another week, this will be nice and filled in. And by the way, before I shut the video off, we have more success with milo in new places now. I've got milo hidden in there, which it did seed out. But I've also got milo out in these areas, even though these heads aren't big, but they are producing. Big difference than 0 and something. And there you can see a few of them around them okra plants right there. All right, guys, so that's all I've got for now. Happy to report at least the island is now growing better. I mean, look at all that green back in there. It's not as dark green as this, but we have actual tonnage being produced, and therefore my mat ability is going to increase much faster. All right, guys, have a good one. Don't forget, hit that like and subscribe button, and I hope you enjoy these videos.